on this episode of Edge of the Web.
You want to make sure that you have conversion goals set up within each of these platforms, and that might mean dropping a tracking pixel on your website so that Facebook or whatever the platform is can actually identify when a paying customer happened, not just when someone clicks on an ad.
Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. You're listening and watching Edge of the Web. Winners of Best Podcast from the Content Marketing Institute for 2017. Hear and see more at edgeofthewebradio.com. Now, alongside Tom Broadbeck, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
Well, hey, welcome back to The Edge. We're broadcasting from Indianapolis, Indiana, over at Edge Media Studios. Every week we bring you on this show latest trends in digital marketing and marketing influencers from around the planet. So with that, we certainly want to make sure that you're jumping in and watching us on live stream, as well as checking us out on iTunes and all of the podcast aggregation platforms. We do this for a number of reasons. First and foremost, you would certainly want to check out edgeofthewebradio.com for all of the content that we're providing, the video, audio, and insights that we have on the show. But to the point, we do this for one or a couple of reasons. One, we want to make sure that our audience that we've been able to grow over the last 7 years, and thank you so much for continuing to listen and continuing to give us some insights into what you want to hear on the show. We do that so we can bring and kind of break down some mystifying concepts inside of digital marketing. There's a lot of stuff there. The search engine optimization, there's search engine marketing, social media marketing, email marketing, conversion rate optimization, video optimization, buyer's journey methodologies, these things that sometimes are a bit abstract. We try to break them apart and bring you some great individuals that contribute into the quality of digital marketing skills. But we also do it for our own reasons. We want to make sure that we are getting educated here over at Site Strategics on a regular basis. We're keeping our powder dry so we can actually do the best work for our clients. That's why we do what we do. I'm your host, Aaron Sparks. I'm CEO of Site Strategics, and to my left is the indomitable Thomas Broadbeck, Director of Digital Marketing.
Howdy.
Media! God.
It's all right.
I had one chance. I had one.
You got it right last week. We're back to normal. It's okay.
Tom, how you doing today, sir?
Good. My daughter turned 2 today, or is 2 today. Turned 2 today.
Okay. And what happened? That's a
she woke up an hour early
for
some reason, so she woke up at 5:30 today.
Okay.
So that's fun.
Was she aware that she just turned 2?
Yeah, she'll 2. She can't do the 2, she'll kind of go like this.
For the audience listening,
with her hands, yes,
exactly.
She can't put 2 fingers up, so it's cute.
Too cute. We saw some great pictures online of you taking her to daddy-daughter dance.
Yeah, that was last week.
That was awesome.
Was fun.
So the year 3 is going to be coming around, and everything's going to be changing.
Yeah.
For you guys. I mean, it's like
it's going to be terrible, as I understand.
Absolutely. I mean, the terrible 2s are one thing. But, oh, my gosh.
The terrible 3s are worse?
The 3s themselves, I can't even remember what they call the 3s, but it's terrible, especially for girls. And boys alike. I just want to make sure that I go right in the middle there, especially in this climate. Well, congratulations to her. And hey, congratulations to your family, too.
Thank you.
Let's introduce you to our guest on the show. We got Hailey Friedman. She's the head of marketing over at Improvado IO. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good. And any horror stories of 3-year-old children over there?
Not yet.
All right. I'm batting 1,000 here. Well, anyway, thanks for joining us today, Hailey. We're certainly eager to jump into marketing optimization concepts because it's a rarity that you really get into the spaces where you can actually test the experiments that you're setting up, and we want to unpack that and really help give some guidance to some of our audience who haven't done that yet. But first and foremost, we'd love to jump into the news. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so let's take you through the latest digital marketing news.
I was very excited to start my reportings.
This week's trending topics.
All right, so you always want to stay on top of all the marketing trends over at edgeofthewebradio.com. From Matt Southern over at Search Engine Journal. Guess what? Google Lens is coming to Google Image Search. So, Tom, tell us about Google Lens.
Yeah, so Google Lens is a great tool that Google's come up with. It's more native. I'm not sure how it works with an iPhone, but it's pretty native with it within the Android app now. So in your camera, you can take pictures of objects, and so we've used it a lot here recently with trying to identify flowers and trees in our backyard. And so you can take a picture of it, and it will do a search based on that picture
The leaf and what have you.
the leaf, and will
Oh
identify.
my gosh, that's great.
And then you can use it for buildings to see what building it is and where you are, and help you identify where you're at on a map. So earlier this week, I should say, it was Google's 20th birthday party or 20th anniversary, and so they had a slew of updates. So I'll go through a few of them here. CNBC had an article here I'll throw in the show notes as well that kind of summarized it, all the different updates. So the first one is a featured videos card that's going to be appearing in search result. It will start to play videos in the results one after another, but only show short parts of the videos that are relevant to your search. So if you type something in, while in New York, videos of the New York City skyline, Statue of Liberty, and other destinations might show up in this new box. And then once you tap on it, you can see the video. An activity card will show up at the top of the search results. So it'll show its pages you visited as well as your queries about the certain area. Google's also introducing something called collections. You'll be able to save content from the activity card to your collections, and Google will then use the things you saved in your history in order to recommend new content for your collections. Google is also enhancing topics for certain things you search for, such as if you search for pug, for example, you'll see a card where you can find little things to tap, like names, training details, and how to buy or adopt a pug. Google is also redesigning its feed to recommend content. It appears in places like the Google app or the home screen of Google Pixel devices. It will now be called Discover, and it'll show videos, among other things, for the first time when you search for an interest like hiking. You'll be able to hit buttons to see more or less about certain topics in your feed. A bunch of new stuff. Like I said, Google Lens has been mostly in apps, but now it's going to be going to the Google Images. You can identify certain objects within an image to view images related to what you've selected. Google Image Search is getting some enhancements as well. There will be tags that show products and other kinds of images like stock images and do-it-yourself tutorials. You'll be able to find the sort of thing you're looking for faster in Google Images. So another one, Google is launching Pathways, a way to help people learn new skills in order to get new jobs. If you search for information about jobs, you'll see some training programs in your area as well. So lots of new things that they kind of dropped on us at once.
Yeah.
That we don't really know a lot about yet, but could definitely see how that impacts things going forward.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like Google's been busy.
Yeah, they have.
We turned 20. Here we go.
Well, I mean, from an optimization play, I mean, where's the monetization that's going to happen here, first and foremost? How are company organizations going to be able to help get their content in that space? That's my first question. But from an optimization standpoint, I mean, we've been focused on image optimization for a long time on the search. I mean, these are all new platforms, all new areas in which content could be optimized to deliver, right, Hailey?
Absolutely, yeah. Video. I know Google also just did a rebrand of their Google Ads. Instead of AdWords, it's now Google Ads. I noticed that my whole email inbox looks different. So It sounds like there's a lot going on. And as marketers, we'll definitely have to pay close attention to tweaks and changes we might have to make in our content in terms of SEO and video and images.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of optimization and marketers really trying out new things, some marketers are actually going back to some old things from Recode by Randy Mola. The title of this article is Billboards. Yes, billboards are having a heyday in the digital world. Ads on billboards, buses, and at venues like baseball stadiums are expected to see a record spending this year. Worldwide ad spend and so-called out-of-home advertising is expected to reach $38 billion with a B this year, up 3% since last year and 35% since 2010, according to data from ad measurement company Zenith. The projected 2018 year-over-year growth in global advertising first is internet at 11%. Fantastic. Yay, internet, right? Second is 3.1% for outdoor advertising. I'm surprised that QR codes aren't making a comeback with this type of growth.
Got Google Lens now.
Now they have Google Lens, exactly, and Google Lens was anticipating this growth. That's the fastest growing non-internet ad media besides cinema, which is drastically smaller, making percentage gains easier, and where the growth is mostly in China. Out of home ads. I like how they're renaming it, out of home ads, right, as opposed to billboards, because my God. Who wants it?
So many other places.
Exactly. The park bench advertising is at an all-time high. Now, out-of-home ads, which make up 7% of all total ad spending, have outperformed the rest of non-internet media, including TV, for the past 6 years. So why do you think that is, Hailey? Why in the world are we now looking at billboards again?
I think people are looking to have experiences. We're all stuck on our phones and our computer screens and our TVs. And so everyone's kind of over it and looking to have experiences outside their home. And when they do that and they go to a baseball game, or they're commuting, or they're outside of their home, it's a great opportunity to capture them. And I've noticed this kind of retro channels are working better now. They're making a comeback. For example, direct mail, right? So we're getting so many emails in our inbox, but actually I don't get that much mail to my door. So I've definitely seen here in San Francisco, a bunch of brands have a lot of success with direct mail to millennials who aren't getting that much mail. So kind of trying things that are different. And even though those are things that used to be old school and saturated, they're not so much anymore.
There's nothing new under the sun, Horatio. I mean, literally, it's going to be cyclical, right? I mean, there's going to be cycles of retro, and I mean, eventually we're all going to get bored of the pendulum, right?
Getting mail's fun though. I mean, you get emails all the time, but you go out to the mailbox and you get something. You know,
it's like
it's
a treat.
fun. Yes.
It's an
Especially
adventure.
when there's a coupon or money, a card from your grandparents with money in it,
and especially if you have if you have the 2-year-old along with you,
There
I
we
mean,
go.
you can make it an incredible journey.
But yeah, it's the digital space is, the Facebook organic reach is becoming less, so you have to spend money there. Twitter, same way. I mean, all those social channels, you pretty much have to spend money there now, and so it's just. I mean, sure, you can really be targeted within your digital, but I mean, you can get customers wherever you can. I mean, it's the the customer journey essentially. But I mean, as many touch points as you can get for maximize your dollars. So,
Now
I've definitely seen a trend too with like brands trying to create experiences, right?
Sure.
So in New York, in the subway station, they'll cover the entire subway inside and out with a brand, or brands that are actually online companies like Casper Mattress or something like that. They're creating stores here in San Francisco where you can walk in and you can lay on beds and you can interact. So I think people are craving those in-person experiences.
Yeah, just looking at even at the screenshots that they included in here of the billboards, those are like unique things that are eye-catching.
Yep.
But you like your typical, like you said, the park bench thing.
Yeah.
Those probably won't be as noticeable unless it's a unique, crazy park bench.
Well, what we haven't.
So you have to be smart. You have to be smart and have a strategy behind of what you're doing. Not just go rent. The park bench you see.
The trade of unique video imagery inside of Facebook. Those quick hooks. That is an incredible area of video optimization. Those visuals are making their way to the traditional billboard, the traditional outdoor media now. So you're getting that same level of mobile experience or visual hooks. Now it's breaking the mold, and there's new art coming. But more importantly, there's also new technology on billboards as well. You're getting a heck of a lot of connectivity and internet access being displayed on these boards. So I'm seeing more and more, just in Indianapolis alone, seeing a number of billboards that are actually pushing live content. And there's a number of billboards around here that were pushing game day scores, the last Colts game, right? But they're having some additional information being piped, so they're no longer static boards. They're actually interactive to a particular degree boards. Now, it's kind of risky whenever you're dealing with traffic going by. But, there's a new advent of technology that's happening now, right?
Absolutely. We actually have, so the new Salesforce tower went up over the past couple years, and it's right around the corner. But the entire top section of the building, I don't know exactly how many floors it covers. It must cover 10 to 20 floors. It's that big. It is just a live screen, and it's always showing live action TV or advertisings of some kind. You can see it from so far away. You can see it from outside the city. When you look at the skyline, you can actually see the screen on top of this building. It's wild.
Now wait a minute. Seriously, we have the Salesforce tower over here, and we don't have anything like that. And that's downtown Indianapolis.
Yeah, I don't know. They built this thing. I think it's the biggest skyscraper on the West Coast now.
Oh man.
I don't know, you'll have to come out and
They
visit.
didn't build the one here in Indy. They just bought the naming rights.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. They didn't build this one. Well, last thing on the docket here is search engine from Search Engine Journal from Matt Southern as well. Google make content more relevant to recover from the August algorithm update. And we talked about this a while back, a couple shows back, regarding the August Medic algorithm change. This is straight from Google. To site owners working on recovering from August core algorithm update, Google's John Mueller suggests making content more relevant. That's kind of an obvious, but the topic was addressed in a Google Webmaster Central hangout last week in response to the following user submitted question regarding the last big core update. How soon can we see site-wide changes after we fix all the content that didn't satisfy intent? Is that like 3 months or is that longer? When it comes to these core algorithm updates, Mueller says that it's not a matter of fixing specific issues. Rather, Google is more concerned with how relevant the content is to searchers' queries. So they're not giving any type of information regarding when, but they are certainly giving information about how, and more importantly, why these changes have affected these different websites. So, Hailey, have you experienced any drops or any issues with some of the clients maybe you're working on from the search engine optimization standpoint?
I've heard of people suffering from it. I have not personally experienced it, but yeah, like I always say, you can't fool Google. Google's just the smartest, smarter than all of us.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, Google wants to serve up content that's going to answer people's questions from every angle. And so if you can create the most comprehensive content out there,
Yep.
And then Google's going to serve you up first. But if people click on your content and they still have questions after, Google will know because they'll see that person search the same thing and click on other people's articles. So
it's about relevant intent. It's about this. I mean, where content really kind of went astray, and it wasn't about just content for content's sake, but I mean these tangential strategy plays. I mean that really isn't paying off for for businesses, and they need to give stuff that's useful to their audience.
Yeah, I see a lot of people, pumping out blog content because just for the sake of having blog content,
Right.
And it's not really what I would use it for.
Nope.
If you're trying to hit SEO goals.
Yeah. So I mean, you're certainly seeing that Google's getting sharper and sharper with its algorithm changes, and for those that had some strong optimization over the time, you just have to evolve and have to adapt. So So that's one thing right there. You know what? You don't have to adapt to getting some great newsletter information from us on a regular basis. We're sending that to you, to your inbox. All you got to do is subscribe. So text to the number 22828, the word Edge Talk, and you can sign up right there. Don't do it while you're driving, or don't do it when you're looking at billboards. But sign up right there, or go over to edgeofthewebradio.com, and you can sign up right there. We won't give your email out to anybody. We won't use it for anything else except sending you our weekly newsletter where we're showing who we interviewed, some great questions, who's upcoming, as well as some of the articles that we cover on the show. So with that, we certainly recommend you go over to edgeofthewebradio.com and sign up and see who's coming up next. Follow all the trending topics over at Edge of the Web Radio. Now let's deep dive with this week's featured guest.
Now it's time for Edge of the Web featured interview with Hailey Friedman, Head of Marketing at Improvado.
So there's Deep Voice Guy for you.
Love it.
All right. So for our audience, live cast or our audio audience, let's introduce Hailey. Hailey Friedman is the head of marketing at Improvado IO and co-founder of Growth Marketing Pro. She also serves as the president of Badass Marketers and Founders, a Facebook group with over 20,000 members. I'm just going to say that again. Badass Marketers and Founders. What a great name. Hailey, that's kind of the official bio, but let's hear your backstory and how you got into digital marketing.
Absolutely. Thank you for the beautiful intro. Sorry, there's a couple of different titles to mention in there.
No, it's okay.
So I wasn't born into the marketing world. After college, I did a program called Teach for America, where I taught 8th grade English in the Bronx for 2 years. And while I was doing that, I had an idea for a mobile app that I put together with a team from across the country. We built this thing, and I was invited to South by Southwest, and I pitched it in front of hundreds of people. And that was kind of the first time I ever saw this tech startup world. And I was like, wow, this is way more fun than teaching. I want to do this full time. So I joined a startup in New York after that because I realized I had a lot to learn about what it takes to start a business. My 2 software engineers that were working on my side project quickly got recruited from Microsoft and Facebook. So that was the end of our little project.
Oh, man.
But it's okay, because really that experience just acted as a stepping stone for me. And the biggest thing that I learned from the experience was that you can have an awesome team, you can have an awesome product, but if you don't know how to get customers, then you don't have anything worth very much at all. And so this kind of set me off on my journey for how do I get Joe Schmo to sign up for something or to buy something? This was a gray box I didn't understand, and I really wanted to understand it better. So I kind of set off. I decided to move across the country to San Francisco to be deeper in this tech startup world. And I got a job in marketing at a company called Realty Shares, which is right down the block from where I am right now. I learned a ton while I was there. And what's cool about joining a startup is that you get in on the ground floor and you get to try a lot of different things. So if you're a marketer, I think what's fun about marketing and what's fun about startups is this trial and error. You get to have such a big impact. You get to come up with ideas, implement them, test them, and if they work, it feels incredible. And if they don't, you try something else. So it's this iterating process that's really fun. But one thing I noticed pretty quick after I started learning about marketing was how numbers heavy it is. And I'd never really been very good at math since I was an English teacher back in the Bronx. So I was pretty disappointed about how math heavy this was going to be, right? We, as marketers, we're spending all this money. We got to know what's working and what's not. So
it's all about the data.
All about the data, right? So I wasn't thrilled when I learned that, but luckily my mentor really pushed me to wrap my head around all the numbers. And so he insisted that I was going to be responsible for all of the marketing metrics and the weekly meeting that we have with our CEO, all of our reporting, our budgeting, our forecasting of the numbers.
Wow.
Great.
Just got threw you into the deep end there.
It's like, yep, you're going to do all this. You're going to figure it out. So wasn't thrilled, but it's cool to meet people that push you. So I appreciate that. And I taught myself Excel and all these formulas and numbers and things by Googling things. Thank you, Google, for updating, staying up to date. And yeah, so every week I'd have to stand there, and since I was meeting with our CEO, he would rapid fire questions about what's working, what's not working. So I had to make sure I fully understood all the data inside and out. So I could say, I paused this AdWords campaign, this Facebook campaign has this ROI. And I felt like I really had to understand the data inside and out. And in order to do that, I had to do what many marketers have to do today, which is log into all the different platforms where we're running campaigns, right? Because we're trying a million different things at one time. So we have, in order to see how our marketing campaigns as a whole are doing, that means we have to log into Facebook and AdWords and LinkedIn and Outbrain and Taboola and all these different platforms, right? We need to then export our data from those platforms and import it into maybe Excel, and so that you can create some kind of dashboard and formulas and understand what's going on. And for me, that process took like 10 to 20 hours every week, which was grueling to say the least, and also just not how I wanted to be spending 2+ days at work.
That's not the fun part of marketing, is it?
Not the fun part at all. So I was spending all that time, and eventually we decided that we were going to hire someone full time to do this, to be our marketing analyst for the team. And so we hired Brian over there, who's a genius and did this stuff full time and did a lot of other smart marketing data insight finding. But when I left my job at Realty Shares about 6 months ago, I was looking for a role leading marketing at a startup. But I really wanted to work at a startup that was helping marketers, since I realized this is a topic I really love. I host these events in San Francisco through that group you mentioned earlier, Badass Marketers and Founders. I also have a blog where I'm writing about marketing tactics all the time, growthmarketingpro.com. And so I was like, I want to work somewhere where I'm marketing to marketers so I can leverage this community that I already have. And a family friend of mine told me about this company that was looking for a head of marketing. And I went to go interview with them, didn't have many expectations at all. And then when they explained what Improvado did, I learned that they are a tool that automates that whole process of collecting all your data into one place. So I sat with the founder of the company, and he showed me really quickly how to, in 5 minutes, automate all the work that I'd spend like 20 hours a week doing. So basically plugs into all these different platforms and then slurps up the data into one dashboard so you can see all your marketing campaigns in one place in real time all the time, so you never have to do that work again. I was like, wow.
So Paul's right there. Yeah, there's two ways that response could go. That could be amazing. Let me have this tool, or are you kidding me that I've been doing it for 20 hours a week? So I'm assuming the former, right?
I had two emotions at the same time. One was anger. I was like, I am pissed that I wasted like days of my life doing this thing that could have been automated. And the other was relief that I would never have to do it again.
There it is. Yep.
Yeah. So I was very excited that everything ended up working out. And now I get to be a part of sharing and educating other marketers that there is a solution out there that can save us a ton of time and money, right? Because you're making quicker, real-time decisions about your marketing and spending your time more efficiently.
And that's a fantastic scenario. Where we work and live right now is that the evolution of these tools. A decade ago, we didn't have nearly what we have now, and they're intuitive tools, and it gives us more freedom to be able to optimize scenarios as opposed to just interpret data, right?
Totally. And it takes time just to pull the data together. I mean, people always talk about using the data to make decisions, data-driven decisions, and you get it, but nobody talks about how much work it takes to just get the data into one place so you can make those decisions.
Yep.
It's brutal.
So it's great to be able to have the tools, but then comes another new discipline, is that now you have the data, and now okay, if you're going to hypothesize what would happen if, right? You now have to have a discipline of understanding everything that you're affecting in order to get a good result back, or a result period, and know that you're affecting one variable or another variable, that you don't have a shotgun approach. Well, let's just try this over here, and you don't have the knowledge of what you really affected.
Yeah, totally. And it's a challenge. There's a lot of mistakes I see people making all the time. So one of them is not having data around the full picture, because you want to make sure that from acquisition to revenue, you're understanding exactly where your customers came from. And there's more tools than just Improvado that are involved in helping you get there, right? Like we're using Google Analytics for understanding our website traffic and sessions and visitors. But in order to really understand exactly where people are clicking or looking and spending time on a landing page, you might need a heat map tool like Crazy Egg or something. And then in order to understand really where your customers are coming from, so not just your website visitors, but people who came to your site, clicked, made a purchase, and you got revenue from them, in order to see the what website or what channel that person came from, you might need a tool like Heap or Mixpanel, something that's going to let you take a look at the URL and UTM metrics of the person that actually made a purchase. And so you want to make sure that you can see, because a lot of people will look at the wrong metrics and get excited when it comes to optimization. So they might be excited because the click-through rate on this ad is higher than this ad, but really if you understood the full funnel, which ad was driving more revenue and more purchases, you might see that it's actually the opposite. And so making sure that you have all the tools and all the tracking in place to be able to make informed decisions on the back end. Another one is like UTM tracking. So making sure that you're adding UTM tracking links to every single link you're using, every single ad, whether it's in, and you're adding information about the source, the medium, the content, the keyword, and all that stuff anytime you're sending out a link, whether it's in an email, in a social media post, like anywhere, you want to be able to track it.
And that right there is a discipline that's, and it's I wouldn't say the execution's foreign, but understanding that you start developing your standard conventions internally of your organization or whoever you're marketing for. You've got to have a battle plan. You have to have a standard series of conventions of how to tag. Otherwise, your data is going to be off as well, because human errors of just how you tag something can throw things off, and you won't be able to compare data. That's why some of these UTM tracking programs that are out there are fantastic, because it takes that human element out of the mix and gives you some standardization and normalization of data, right?
Yeah. What tool do you use for that?
Well, looking at a couple tools actually. Content Trackly is one that's it's useful, but at the same time, it's also relatively inexpensive. That also means that there's not nearly as many robust features. Then there's the Tensor. Is it Tensor UTM? Sorry, I've been in my sandbox with UTM tools here for a little while.
I think there's also UTM.io. It's pretty good.
And so
we'll pull it up.
Yeah. So for our audience who understand where we're going here, certainly UTM, we've been talking about UTM for the longest time, be able to track the 5 parameters of data, so you can actually understand all the different efforts of your marketing strategies. Everything that's inbound has to have these factors, but there's also a new evolution of tools that are standardizing these. Now, can you pull that type of tool data into Improvado as well?
Yep, you can pull. You think because the tool is built by marketers, we go really granular into all the tools you could possibly want as a marketer. So a lot of people use like SEMrush or Moz for SEO stuff. If there's an integration we don't have yet, we'll build it out custom for you. If you have data within your website that you want to upload, you can upload it via CSV. There's multiple ways to get all the marketing data that you need into
Excellent.
one place.
Excellent, because UTM's UTM when it gets down to it, and all these other tools are just organization tools to be able to categorize. What I was talking about before was Terminus. Terminus was one of the UTM trackers that I was interested in, and then Campaign Tractly. But you also have, UTM creation tools in HubSpot itself. So, it's not about. I mean, that's a factor of how you organize your own thoughts per campaign or per client. Right? But it all has to be analyzed. And that's where people can really lose some ground, is that unless you have it standardized, you won't be able to compare apples to apples. And that's what your tools that can actually help with, right?
Yeah, I think just in order to be able to make optimizations, you need to be on top of what's going on either on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And you need to have some base metrics for understanding where things are today and the place where you're keeping track of all those things. So I created a copy of the marketing dashboard that I used before I was automating it all with Improvado. Because when I first got to Improvado, I had never used Improvado before. So I created this kind of dashboard on Excel that has different tabs for daily, weekly, monthly, understanding my monthly goals based on our overall sales quota every month, summarizing these findings to put it into a report for senior leadership to see every week or so. So this is kind of my marketing dashboard. And I actually created a copy of it and deleted all the data and made it available to whoever wanted to download it. So if you want to go and download it yourself, you can access it at improvado.io/podcast. And then you can use that for yourself and kind of see what I'm talking about, because you want to at least every week be looking at how your campaigns are performing and channels are performing compared to the weeks prior. And so you want to have a really quick and easy way to identify red flags. If you're seeing click-through rate really went up or cost of acquisition went up for a certain channel or campaign, you can make quick changes. So
cool.
That dashboard's how I used to do it manually. Now it's all automated in Improvado, but if you don't have Improvado, you can download this dashboard. So.
By the way, everybody, she UTM'd that as well.
I did.
So if you really want to get a look into how she's marketing right now, you need to look at her UTM factors as well from the redirect.
Yeah.
But no, you're and that's great. That's a great space, because that is that next evolution. For digital marketers, you must UTM, and if you don't, you've got to get in there. But then you have the organization, and then you have all these manners of different tracking spreadsheets that are out there that are internal UTM builders, or they're just organizing your different medium tags and your different source tags and collecting all those into one space. But the evolution that we're seeing here with Hailey's spreadsheet, that's that next level of daily and weekly and monthly marketing, and that's a maturation in the space. You need to have those tools, and then when you're ready to really expand, be able to compare all this data, you got to have a tool that can analyze all that as well. So, not making too much of a gratuitous plug for Improvado, but I mean it's the nature of measurable tracking data. It's not just coming from the source of the mediums themselves. You've got to put the discipline around what you're trying to test and how you're going to measure. And you also have to go so far as to envision something that you're not measuring right now, but in the future you are going to be. So you're setting the schema and the structure together. So, I mean, it's like a room you're moving into. Okay, you're not going to be in this space, but if you don't have the conventions put together for a future thought, you're going to screw yourself up in measurements down the road as well.
Speaking of future measurements too, you want to have somewhere where you're documenting big changes that you're making, whether to your website or days you're launching new marketing campaigns, just so that when you do see that data come in and you see a spike or a drop, you can then make it easier for yourself to correlate that back to something that you did from a marketing perspective.
So, you find yourself? There's five variables basically that you can work with in a UTM. Do you find limitations there?
Sometimes, but usually I find a way to add the information that I need. so that I can identify where this person came from.
I was just interested because this is the UTM tracking. It just seems to be this has been deployed for a number of years, but I mean, it was the first sandbox to really start tracking efforts outside of just looking at raw data and analytics. It was the space in which we can truly train the experiment that we're doing and be able to get the results. You had an article just recently in your marketing in Improvado about marketing optimization, and I just wanted to segue with this tracking into that article. So let's dive in real quick. First, explain what you mean by marketing optimization, as we kind of bellied up to the bar with UTM tracking being kind of the segue moment here.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of you're spending money as a marketer, you're spending money across all these different places, different channels, and then within each channel you have different ads and ad groups. And so being able to make insightful, intelligent decisions based on the data about what things are not working, what things might be too expensive, things you need to tweak, things you need to pause, and identifying what is working, and then funneling more of your budget there.
So those are the different factors, things to look at. So where does one actually start optimizing the market? You had 4 essential elements in your blog post. Can you cover those?
Yeah. So I think, are you talking about the collecting the data, analyzing? Yeah. So yeah, first things first, you want to make sure that you're collecting all the data that's out there across all the different platforms. Then you want to, number 2, analyze those data for insights, understand what's working and what's not. Number 3, take action within your marketing campaigns by pausing and shifting budget around. And then number 4, you need to be repeating this either daily, weekly, or monthly, depending on the resources that you have on your team.
So what are some of the insights you're looking for there to see what's working and what's not working?
So for me, the most important thing is always the actual paying customers that you're getting, right? Mm-hmm. So it's easy to get distracted by metrics that come earlier in the funnel, like click-through rate and so on. But you want to make sure that you have conversion goals set up within each of these platforms, and that might mean dropping a tracking pixel on your website so that Facebook or whatever the platform is can actually identify when a paying customer happened, not just when someone clicks on an ad. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always looking there at the bottom of funnel conversions to decide what campaigns and what ads are actually working best.
And next steps in that space, I mean, insights, that's a very, I almost want to say it's a subjective matter. Sure. You have to have a discipline to be able to get to have certain insights. You have to have context of knowing what you're testing, right? And what that hypothesis was. You don't want to go ad hoc into that and pull some insights that aren't based in the data that you're measuring, right? I mean, obviously that's foregone conclusion.
Yeah, and I think another important metric that I always keep an eye on is the allowable cost per acquisition. So within every channel, you have, you're running ads and you have the cost per acquisition for a Facebook acquisition, or the cost per acquisition for an AdWords acquisition. And that's pretty easy to figure out. You just look at the overall spend that you've spent in that channel in a given month and divide it by the conversions. And there you have your cost per acquisition in that channel. You want to make sure that the cost per acquisition is not above your allowable cost per acquisition in that channel. And the way you figure out your allowable cost per acquisition in a channel is by looking at the overall revenue that you achieved from that channel divided by the conversions, rather than looking at the spend, right? So it's kind of like your break-even cost per acquisition. And that way, if you always know what your break-even cost per acquisition is in a certain channel, then you can kind of monitor whether your cost per acquisition is too high or too low. And sometimes if it's too high at that channel and you made a lot of optimizations and you can't figure out a way to get it below your allowable, it might make sense to either pause that channel altogether or to look closer and see, are there ads or campaigns within this channel that are within our allowable cost per acquisition, and then others that aren't.
So you have to have that as a backdrop, because you just can't measure CTRs, you can't measure these key performance indicators without having that conversion data. Now, let me go down the rabbit hole real quick on that. You're talking about the cost per acquisition from the client, what they're willing to spend for that particular lead, right? The allowable cost, and that actually is derivative of the margin that they have in the service and what they're willing to spend in that service. Right. What happens if you're and a lot of digital marketers struggle with this, is just getting that data from the customer or getting that data from the client. Sometimes they're not well versed in even understanding what that means, what that cost per acquisition is. How do you go about extracting that from the client?
Yeah. Well, you gotta ask them for access to these numbers. And a lot of times clients don't know these numbers, and you have to do a little digging, try and understand. So if you can get access to their customer data around the revenue data, and then the channels that those customers came from, you can get access to how much they've spent on those channels in the past. Trying to just get your hands on as many numbers as you can. The numbers should all be there. Whether or not they had the tools in place to track where their customers came from is another story. And sometimes that data just doesn't exist yet, and then you have to start from scratch and build it yourself.
You got to train the customer to pay attention to what's really important. Yeah. So keep on going. So you've got other points in the blog after you're getting these insights. Go ahead.
So just after you're analyzing the data for insights, then you go on and you take actions within your marketing campaigns, which I think I touched on a little bit, which is just with those benchmarks that you have, your allowable cost per acquisition. You can go in there and understand which campaigns are operating above or below that. And if you're operating below that and you're acquiring leads for below your allowable cost per acquisition, then you're in a really good place. Can you scale that campaign? Can you scale that audience? Can you scale that channel any further? Great. Sometimes you can't, right? Sometimes there's a ceiling. I mean, we know, especially when we're talking about search, there's always going to be a ceiling somewhere. There's just not that much search volume for certain words, right? So AdWords is only going to work up to a certain point for a lot of companies, and then you have to start getting more creative. What other things can we try? Facebook is more top of funnel. There's a little bit more wiggle room to get creative, but the intent might not be as high as someone who's searching for a specific keyword. So basically, just take action within each of these channels and campaigns. Scaling where you can, and then when you're limited, testing out new things.
And then how often do you actually test out new efforts and new execution?
Testing new things all the time. I think you have to be running at any given time at least 5 to 6 different things.
Oh, there you go.
It's one of the challenges as a marketer, but for me, it's one of the fun parts is being able to multitask and test out different things. I think some of the common channels we talk about all the time are SEO and Facebook and AdWords. Those are kind of the bread and butter, but there's lots of other things you can do with content distribution. You can host podcasts or webinars. So I'm doing B2B marketing here at Improvado right now, and that's some of the best things we're seeing are content oriented. So in content distribution and partnerships with other companies that have the same customers but aren't competitors and are complementary, and co-branding, co-marketing. There's affiliate, referral. There's endless things to try, but you always want to be trying 5 or 6 of them so that you can always have something up in the air.
That's really useful. You don't want to have marketers that are doing wash, rinse, and repeat efforts. You want to have them constantly seeing how they are improving, what they can test, right? So you want to have agility in your marketing, but you also want to be able to have measurements and be able to see what's effective, what's not, to be able to steer, and having multiple tests go on just shows that you've got an organization that is executing with that level of intent to improve on a regular basis, right?
Totally. It's all about testing.
There you go. So how can you tell which advertising channel is actually performing well, and how can you optimize it?
Well, when a channel is performing well, you are getting acquisitions within at or below the cost of acquisition that you're allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. And if you can increase conversion there, I mean, there's a lot of things you could do, not only within the platform itself and changing the ad and stuff. There's a lot you can do also within your product and the landing page experience that someone lands on. You can always increase conversion rate within that landing page experience, because you can have a ton of people visiting. You can have ads working well from the perspective of you're getting lots of clicks and you're getting traffic to your site, but if the landing experience is not fully optimized, that's a whole other story. And that's where you can do a lot of damage in terms of either preventing people from making it to the bottom of your funnel, or if you're doing a really great job, you can really smoothly funnel a lot of people down to the bottom of your funnel and turn them into customers.
So all this sounds rather, I mean, I don't mean to sound silly here, but for the novice marketer, right? This is pretty technical and pretty articulated when it gets down to it. So what are some first steps that digital marketer that is starting this process of testing and optimization? What's the best route that you'd recommend them follow to start getting creating a discipline of how to start doing this on a regular basis? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I think you want to start and make sure that you have all the tracking and tools in place. Once you make sure that the tracking discipline is set up, then you want to have a central hub where you're looking at this data on a daily, weekly, or monthly base, or all of those things basis. And if you don't have a tool like Improvado that can help you do that, you can do it yourself in Excel. It's a little time consuming, but hey, there's marketers all over the world doing it manually.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been for years. So if you need help, again, with how to format that, you can visit improvado.io/podcast, where you can download my marketing dashboard in Google Sheets, so you can have a blank template for yourself. And then from there, you want to be updating that as often as you can, depending on the resources on your team. I think at least weekly, you want to be making optimizations to your campaigns and looking at your data and identifying if there are any changes you made that increased or decreased performance. And when I say performance, you want to make sure that you're looking at the conversion rate, the new customers, and your cost per acquisition and how it compares to your allowable cost per acquisition. And then for the things that are working fine, figure out if there's a way where you can scale it and make it work even better. For the things that are not working, are there ways that you can improve the copy in those ads, or the landing page experience? Maybe for the landing page, you can add some social proof or testimonial to encourage people to take the next step. Maybe you need to revisit some of the language and make sure that it's really clear what you're offering. So there's a lot of different things you can do in terms of how you optimize each week.
Mm-hmm.
But you just want to make sure you're being consistent with that. And then every month, you want to be able to summarize what happened in the past month, how each of the channels are performing. You want to be able to present that to the rest of your team, to outside stakeholders within your company, senior leadership. You want to make sure as a marketer you are, it's not all about the optimizations and the things you're doing every day, but it's also about marketing yourself within your organization as a marketer who is organized around this. And and you can present it in a beautiful and easily consumable way for people who maybe they're not going to dive into your marketing spreadsheets, but they need some pretty charts and visualizations to understand what's going on. And so making sure that you're making it accessible for everyone else is important too.
Well said. Well said. And we certainly would love to tee up to you guys the simplifying of the process that you're talking about. Improvado certainly does provide that level, right?
Yeah, totally. So it's not only does it save you 20 hours a week from having to manually pull this data together.
She's not grinding her teeth on that at all, is she?
That was the biggest pain point for me. So that's definitely what I hang my hat on is the biggest benefit. But the other benefits too is that you can right there. It's all the data is there in real time, but it's also visual. I can't say the word visualized, so that anyone either within your own team or within the organization can visit your marketing data at any time and see charts and graphs and quickly understand what's happening. And that's also something, if you don't have a tool like that, you have to manually build, which is also time consuming.
Oh, very cool. I wanted to quickly, I want to be respectful of time, quickly refer to one particular type of behavior and get your insight on this. Whenever somebody's doing optimization or doing tracking marketing efforts and then trying to set up an experiment, right? There's a propensity to just try something, and if it doesn't deliver, scrap it. As opposed to try something and then try to deconstruct what went wrong or what went right. But if there's a failure to launch on a particular campaign, it's sometimes human nature just to scrap the entire thing and go a different direction. What words of wisdom would you give to marketers that would keep them in the boat, so to speak, and can try to deconstruct some of the efforts and see what they could do to you're getting data, right? You're getting invaluable data. How would you guide them to not just scrap the effort altogether?
For sure. I think, and this will sound super cliche, but just A/B test from the start. So if you're running an A/B test with that initial test, then it wouldn't just be this didn't work, but it'll be, this version worked a little better than this version. Right. And then what about this version worked and what was different, and how can we continue to make tweaks and A/B test those tweaks and see if we can improve one version enough that this thing might work.
Yeah, if you hit a wall and you don't have that A/B, all you know is that it didn't hit the particular marks, right? Yeah. But if you actually have a comparison test, you're always having the ability to get insight into those two comparisons and then be able to move that peg up just a little bit more, right?
Exactly. It's a process.
Absolutely. Well, we certainly are appreciative of your time, and we wish you all the best of luck in your networking event that's coming up here in a couple hours, and we appreciate you spending time with us. We asked this you're more than welcome. We asked this of all of our guests. First and foremost, what bugs you about your industry right now?
What bugs me about my industry? I think there's an opportunity now to be testing so many things and spending money in so many different places that I'm someone who's kind of easily distracted. I get excited about new shiny objects, and I'm sure I'm not alone, right? So as I'm in these groups and I'm talking to other marketers and people are talking about what's working really well, it's easy to get distracted, and it's easy to want to try a million things. And like I said earlier, you do want to have at least 5 or so things running, but the hardest thing to do as a marketer these days is to focus. And it's to figure out, okay, yes, I can become a chatbot expert, but what is the lowest hanging fruit right now? Where's the highest intent for my customers? And where should I really, really be focusing my time? That can be a really big challenge with all these shiny objects flying around.
I would second that and maybe third that particular. So there's so many things to look at. You can kind of get into a level of analysis paralysis by seeing so much. And hey, let's go try this tool. You got to pick your tools, discipline yourself to stay with the tools, and then test all the way through. So conversely, what excites you in your industry?
Probably the same thing that annoys me.
I don't think anybody's ever said that before.
But I think it's a challenge, but it's also really exciting because there are so many new things to try. And once you do figure out those core things and you got that down, and especially if you have a team where you can delegate different things to different people and you can have the space to test out some of these new things, it is really fun. And there are some things that if you get on right at the start, you could be first to market and you can have a big advantage there. And so I think it really depends. I think you have to take a good look at the timeline that you have in order to hit your goals, the team and the resources that you have, and decide, like how focused do we need to be, and how many of these new shiny objects do we actually have time to test out.
Yep. Well, so yeah, shiny objects can be a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. I call them squirrels. I'll literally chase squirrels all over the place with new tools, and there's just so many out there.
There are.
It's light bulb. Anyway, so we certainly want to promote what you're doing out there. Your blog, growthmarketingpro.com. We certainly recommend our audience go check that out. Certainly download, literally, shiny object, I was downloading your spreadsheet as we were talking. Yep. So there's a conversion for you. But you've got a number of different things offering out there, but you have something just recently, a custom growth playbook on your blog. And on top of that, we certainly recommend our audience go check out Improvado. Be able to collect all that data in one place. That's 3/4 of the battle right there. We haven't been in this space where we can actually make things easy for us to then actually do the thinking on marketing, right?
Exactly. Focus on the strategy and the fun parts.
Excellent. Well, we certainly want to make sure all of our listeners following on social at Improvado. That's Improvado with an I-O, right?
Improvado.io.
On Twitter, Facebook, Improvado LinkedIn, Improvado Instagram. Well, with that, any final thoughts for the future marketing optimization specialists out there that you may have inspired today?
Any final thoughts? Just start testing and start implementing. So, and if you have any questions or you want to connect, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Hailey, and good luck in your networking event. We certainly wish you all the best, and you're doing a fantastic job out there with just making sure everybody is doing the testing that they need to do. And good luck in your career. We appreciate your time today.
Thanks so much for having me. This is so much fun.
You're more than welcome. Thanks to all Edge of the Web listeners. Special thank you to our colleagues at Site Strategics. Be sure to check out all of our must-see videos over at edgeofthewebradio.com, as well as all the articles over there as well. So we'll be talking to you next week. Tom, who are we going to be talking to next week?
Well, you mentioned it earlier on the show, but Terminus, we're talking to the founder of Terminus.
We are,
and I don't know how to pronounce his name, so we will wait till I hear back from him.
And that was not a fabrication, literally. I've just been doing some of my own research, and Terminus is going to be on here, huh? Yeah. Very cool. I got a lot of questions. Okay. All right. We're going to talk to you next week. See ya. And be sure to like and review our podcasts and jump into the live stream as available, because we certainly appreciate your feedback and your communication. Let us know how we're doing and who we should be talking to next. So from all of us over at Edge of the Web Radio and Site Strategics, thanks so much. And we'll talk to you next week. Do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. Bye-bye.